Good evening. How's everyone doing? I just wanted to go around the room real quick. Just raise your hand. Is anyone actively marketing to find investment properties right now, or is everyone in the room essentially brand new to marketing? So, how many people are already marketing and having some success with it? How many? So, almost everyone. One person still successful, and then how many people are brand new to marketing in general and are looking to just start from the beginning to learn more about effective strategies for finding off-market sellers before the realtors and everyone else. So that's everyone else in the room. First and foremost, myself and I'm sure Igor and Bonnie, we're here to give back tonight and help everyone in this room as much as possible. I will hold nothing back. All I need you to do is ask really good questions and keep firing them away, and I will answer everything honestly, all of my biggest secrets or whatever the case is, to how I've found success as a real estate investor and entrepreneur in general. So just a little bit about me. Don did tell you that I own a full-service real estate brokerage with 150 agents. That all started in 2008 when I was a wholesaler out running around in Philadelphia, knocking on doors and doing $18,000 a month in direct marketing to find properties. And over time, it morphed into a full service real estate brokerage. We're sending 30 to 40,000 emails a month and text messages, doing direct marketing to hire new agents and to market all of our events. As an investor, I specialize in Section 8 properties in Philadelphia. I think we have about 27, 28 units. I've never purchased one of those properties off of the MLS. It's all been through direct marketing and a few from wholesalers and other avenues. So everything that I've ever done, even the house that I live in, has come from direct marketing. At my brokerage, I am the resident marketing coach and business strategist. So, I study this stuff and live it and breathe it. So, and I'm here to share as much as I can with you guys, and I'll kind of hop in and get started. So I know that Don put together some slides, but I just wanted to start with, it was actually, how many people, this is their first interaction with DIG, period? Like, you've never been to a DIG meeting before? Raise your hand. So this will be an excellent, primer for you. But it was May 5th, 2007. I remember this because May 5th is my birthday, and it was one of my first ever Saturday DIG workshops. And there was a guy there. I think his name was, I don't remember the main speaker's name, but the only person that mattered was the guy at lunch who was there to talk during the lunch, and he had some sort of program that he was selling. But he said to everyone in the room, he's like, you guys all think that you're real estate investors and you're here to learn all of these technical things about real estate investing and how to fill out a contract and how to buy a foreclosure and do all of this and all of that and how to do a short sale. But he's like, none of that matters, because what you really are is just a marketer that happens to be in the real estate business. And until you get really good at direct marketing, it's going to be very hard to get to the next level in business. And at the time, it sounded really good, but I just didn't know what it meant until I started to implement some of those things and do direct mail. I was like, wow, you can send a couple hundred letters and start getting phone calls. It felt like magic at first, but then over time, we started to grow and scale it. So remember, you are in the marketing business. So that being said, I spend all of my time dealing with marketing. I don't read books about real estate. I read books about marketing, how to become a better marketer, what makes a marketing effective compared to what makes marketing ineffective. One of my marketing mentors is Dan Kennedy. He's written over 20 books, and he can teach you everything you need to know about direct marketing. Another thing, there's no secrets in this business. Everyone in this room is doing one of probably 5, 10, or 15 things. What makes people successful with marketing is that they find the one or two things that works for them, and then they build a system and a process around it so that they can automate and have this system working for them over and over and over and over. We could go through the 50 plus ways to find your next flip, but if you don't pick one or two of those things, it's going to be hard to put them all together. But over time, you can build a machine that has more different things, but just picking one or two of these things is going to be really helpful. Another thing I wanted to just touch on, let me ask for some of you guys and ladies in the room who said that they're marketing, but it's not working. What are you doing and what's not working about it right now? Does anyone just want to share something so we can maybe try to help you diagnose that issue? So for someone who is doing marketing, just shout out like what's not working for you. Are you not getting phone calls? Are you doing direct mail and it's not working? Does anyone want to share? Yes, Elaine.
Elaine, please come to the microphone.
Okay. That's all right. But while she comes up to the microphone,
if you don't get to the microphone, we can't hear every morsel of wisdom out of your mouth.
Right. So she's putting out bandit signs. So you can repeat your question.
So we actually put the bandit signs up on our properties only where we're actually doing rehabs. And we have one saying, we buy houses, and another that says we will buy lots. And we've only gotten a few calls, hasn't really turned into it. And one is in Brewery Town, which we know is a hot area, but we haven't gotten a lot of phone calls from having signs up.
So a couple of things. How many signs did you put up this month or just in general?
We only put them on our property because we've heard from some of the neighbors that they feel a little harassed in Brewery Town by the volume of signs that are up, and some people think they're unattractive. So we only put it on our property, but our property is on a corner, so it's visible to people on both streets.
So do you want the bandit signs to work, or do you want them not to work?
I would prefer that they work.
Right. So now this is the one thing about marketing is that you have to get comfortable. People are going to be offended by your marketing sometimes. Just with the probates, which is one of the best avenues is the best avenue I've ever worked to get deals. We can talk about that. We have people calling all the time. How dare you send me letters and blah, 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 blah. And at the end of the day, we're here to help those who want to be helped, and everyone else, they don't even have to waste time with calling. And we're always polite, but if I worried about that call and didn't have thick enough skin, I'd probably quit and give up and wouldn't have made everything I've made to this point. So with bandit signs, actually, the more people you piss off, the more successful you're going to be with it. So if you're not making someone mad by noon, you're not doing enough. So 100 of them at minimum every single month has to go out on every single corner. I mean, the guys that I know that are successful with bandit signs, I never was consistent enough to make it work. They're doing 400 to 500 a month, and they're just throwaways. Every single month, a new order from Super Cheap Signs is coming in, and they do it in volume. And that's the only way to really make the bandit signs work, or else it'll just be a random call here and there. And I wouldn't get 100 of the we buy lots, only because a confused prospect does nothing. The average person in the public may not know what a lot is. All right, we know what lots are, but someone who's just selling one, they just might look at it as like just a piece of ground next to my house. I didn't know there was a technical term for it, so I'd probably stick to the houses one and then test it, and it will work. But it takes like that kind of volume, and that's the one thing with marketing is that you have to be extremely consistent. You can't do 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 letters and get a deal and stop doing it and then pick it back up again. The only way to really make marketing work is to be consistently having a machine to get that out there. So that would be my suggestion with bandit signs. Does someone else have something that's not working? You have another question?
Yeah. So we also have some flyers, some postcards.
Could you get closer to the mics?
It's very tall.
Bend it down.
Geared to those that are vertically challenged.
Yes.
So we also have some flyers that we want to send out in Brewery Town. How do you suggest we go about determining what addresses, or where do we pull addresses from now that we have the flyers?
So if you have flyers, those are just going to be dropped door to door. If you wanted to get more targeted, you'd get a mailing list and then say, I only want to target people who own 30 plus years, who might have a tax lien, and you can break it down. So for that, usually when I used to do a lot of flyers, we would do like 30,000 a month or more. I would take like 8.5 by 11 sheet, put my message on the top half, then copy and paste it on the bottom half, and then get 2 flyers for the price of one, and then just have Staples cut them for us. Mm-hmm. So that's another way to get, better bang for your buck with every flyer, and then just start putting them on every single door, except for the newer houses, of course. Flyers worked really well for us, and we've gotten some good deals. We would go out and door knock. We'd have a team of 4 people that would work for us, 2 people on each side of the street, and whoever didn't answer would get a flyer on their door. And if they did answer, we'd hand them a flyer and then ask for leads for people who'd be selling in the neighborhoods.
All Thank
Yep.
you.
So let's talk about, we talked a little bit about what's not working. I wanted to touch on what is working right now, and how many people would be interested to know like the top 2 or 3 ways to get deals right now. In my opinion, direct mail can and does work, but it is also a very saturated marketplace because all the gurus are out because the market's still hot, and you could literally train a monkey to send direct mail. So it's a very easy thing to teach, and anyone can do it because you never have to be in a pressured situation to talk to anyone up front. A postcard is a salesperson that goes to work for you and you wait for a return. The people that are making the most money right now with wholesaling, flipping, and buying rentals are the ones who are doing cold calling. Believe it or not. Has anyone tried cold calling in their investing business? Rich, did it work for you? So, and this is the thing. It comes from I don't know many investors who cold call, but in the realtor world, the most successful realtors who are making 7 figures a year build their businesses off of good old fashioned cold calling. But those realtors, they're in like the high 6 figures and low 7-figure housing market where they're looking to list toll brother houses at really high prices. For us, we just want to go to the worst possible neighborhood or wherever it is that you're investing and cold call everyone. There's a service called Mojo Dialer, MOJO. Mojo Dialer is a great service that you can purchase up to 3 dialing lines. So you call out and it will ring 3 people at once. The first person that picks up and hangs up on the other 2. And as soon as you hang up with that call, it'll just dial 3 more people, and you can make hundreds of calls in an hour with this system. And it's also a CRM, and it also provides lists of people to call that are already scrubbed on the do not call list. So I could draw a circle around Brewery Town, because somebody mentioned that earlier. And it'll just like a magnet lift all the public phone numbers, dump it into the dialing system, and enable you to make that cold call. Cold calling is awful. It sucks, and nobody wants to do it, and that's really one of the reasons why it works. So, and that's the thing that I'll bounce back to you guys. And if some of you want to get to that next level, or if you want to find a deal where there's a 50, 60, 80, $100,000 profit margin, what's worse, watching a competitor get the deal, or being stuck in your current situation, trying to get to that next level, or just getting on those phones and setting up a system to make it happen. Like that right now is one of the hottest ways to find investment properties. That's number 1. Number 2 is good old fashioned door knocking, because there's not anyone can send the yellow letter, and the sellers are becoming quickly desensitized by the yellow letter because everyone's sending them. I get 4 or 5 in my mailbox every week on the same property, and I know what the game is. But imagine if I was just a regular seller and I could just get these things bombarded in my mailbox every day, with going out and showing up at someone's door. Some of the best deals we've ever gotten had come from door knocking. One of my first deals ever, it was a pre-sheriff sale door knock, and the person, when they opened the door, then I told them like, hey, I know there's a situation. Is there anything I can do to help you get this house sold before the sale? Proceeded to slam that door in my face, but like right before they slammed it, I got the business card through the door, and they ended up calling me. It was like a week or 2 later, and begged me for them to buy their house, and hugged me in settlement that I was able to save them from foreclosure. So you have to have a little bit of a thick skin when you're knocking on doors. But again, if everyone else in this room is sending direct mail and you show up at a door, it's going to be a lot more effective. That's number 2. Number 3, skip tracing is a huge way to find investment properties, and that's can be mixed with driving for dollars, where you're going into your neighborhoods and finding the vacant looking properties, and then going into your skip trace database like LexisNexis or locateplus.com. And there's a couple of other ones that you would be shocked the type of information you can pull up on yourself through these databases. Cell phone numbers, home addresses, social media profiles, email addresses. Next of, you can find cousins, aunts, uncles, next of kin, anything you could imagine you could pull up about a person on one of these skip trace sites. And most investors, they'll stop when they get that vacant letter back in the mail if they are sending direct mail, or they'll go driving for dollars and they'll leave a sticky note on the door, but they're not skip tracing. So myself and the investors and developers I know that are the most successful, they don't like to let it out of the bag, but skip tracing is up there with cold calling. And if you don't want to do it yourself, then maybe you partner with someone who does, or hire a VA service to try to make some of those calls for you. But it's really effective in a market that's saturated with direct mail and some other things right now. Questions about any of that stuff, up until this point, with the cold calling? Does anyone want to actually start cold calling tomorrow? Seriously, it really works. Where's your marketplace at? So wherever. That's awesome. And you do flips? Okay. All right. So let's jump into this list a little bit. And Don, just give me like a nod when it's time to move on to the next presentation.
Okay, I'll nod.
We can move on. A little nod. Let's see. All right, let me see. So content from conversation. Go back to this here. Get organized right here. Find the flip, marketing skills, market the deal. So finding the flip, the motivated seller. I think this is going back to the basics, but the people that you want to talk to on the phone is usually not the for sale by owners who are looking to get $1 million for their property and they have no motivation whatsoever. The type of sellers we look for are people that are in a situation and they want to get out of it, and what matters to them more is peace of mind over pain. So picture someone who has inherited a property. Let's take the city of Philadelphia. They inherit the property, and then things just go wrong and wronger, if that's even a word, and wronger and wronger and wronger, and just gets worse and worse and worse. So they inherit the property. They don't do anything right away. They bury their head in the sand. And then 3 months later, they go out there and realize that there's a major roof leak, and now it's causing all kinds of damage in the house. They continue to bury their heads in the sand, and then 3 weeks after that, they come back and a squatter moves into their house, and then it takes them 3 months to get the squatter out, and then the copper gets stolen. And by the time you get there 6 months later, because you never stop following up with this person, they're like, I am so ready to sell this thing, and I just want to get rid of it. Price is not an issue. Come and take this house from me, because I'm tired of coming here and thinking about my relatives that passed away. I'm tired of dealing with squatters and theft and break-ins, and I'm tired of worrying about the insurance and the inheritance tax fines and all of this stuff. Now, what do you think is going to happen when I go and sit down with that person? House, mine, and here's an Advil. It's a couple $1,000s for the house, whatever the case is. That's the type of situation you want to be looking for. When I talk to someone on the phone, it's like, well, I'm not going to give my house away. I want all this money for it. Those are the people that I'll usually refer them to a realtor or just call back, at some time in the future and put a follow-up in place, which is important. Following up is the key to all of this. When you generate leads, you barely ever get them the first time. So you should have some sort of CRM or database that tracks your leads. Do any of you guys use a particular database or something? RealFlow is an investor CRM, contact relations management system, that you can dump all of your leads into. You can take notes, so you can say, hey, I had this conversation this day, and I want to remind myself to follow up in 30 days from now with the person. It can automate text messages. It can send out letters for you. It can do everything. It becomes the brain of your business, right? Do you use one?
My mic's on? Okay. All right. We use Podio, and it was actually recommended to us named Bill Kratz.
Yes, that one too.
And it works really well. I have a couple notes about it later.
Yep. So you don't want to start getting into this marketing thing. I started off of a notebook, and that's the worst thing you can ever do. And a spreadsheet might be a place to start, but if you want to take this marketing thing serious and scale it to the next level, those databases are not very expensive. I mean, how much is RealFlow cost? It's not bad. So there's $99 a month. And there's so much you can do with it. I mean, like, I know you can build this Podio thing out to be like majorly complex. I know some guys who do stuff nationwide that have Podio build outs, and it's an amazing place to start, but it can be whatever you need it to be. So, but you want to be finding the motivated people, that's for sure. And again, I'll share with you guys, the best deals I've ever gotten have been through inherited properties. So depending on what county you're in, Philadelphia, it's almost impossible to get the list unless you bribe people or know someone who goes down and gets it. But in most counties, you can go straight to the courthouse, to the Register of Wills, and for free, look at the files. So you can go in there, see who inherited the properties, what the name of those people are, and then you can mail to the addresses of where they live and say, hey, you inherited a property over here at 123 Main Street. I'm interested in buying the house. Sometimes you can skip trace and get the phone numbers or whatever the case is, and get deals that way. So I just found that, of course, not everyone's motivated in that list, but again, the most profitable deals I've ever gotten have been, off of that list. I mean, the type of deals where we've made like $100,000 profits. There was one, we purchased 2 duplexes in the airport area in Southwest Philadelphia. We didn't do any work to these houses, and we ended up being able to, they appraised for such a high price. We bought them, waited a little bit, and then did a refinance that we pulled $35,000 out of each one, kept them, they still cash flow, and then we took that $70,000 and then purchased another property and another property. And then what happens is, as you start to snowball these things, like I started off, I didn't have anything, but when you get one, you can get 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's another inherited property, and everyone's pretty familiar with the city and Brewery Town and what's going on down there. Purchased a house for $40,000, and luckily my contractors screwed me and took a year instead of 3 months to finish the renovations, because I thought it was a 175 house. By the time we were done renovations, after a year, it was already worth 230. And I put 60 into it, so 40, 60. Let's just say I'm all in 105, 110. It was worth. It appraised for 230. I kept it as a rental property. I didn't flip it, and now it's probably worth 270. A vacant building at the corner is now high-end luxury apartments with some rooftop pool or something up on the roof. There's a brewery around the corner and all of these other things that weren't there just a few years ago. So that all just came from a probate letter that I sent out. So the probates have been very, very good to me, and I suggested everyone in the room to look into that. And by doing probates, not only sending the mail, but for the ones that you might spot on your list because it's small enough, say, I would really love to own a property in this area, this neighborhood. I would skip trace those people if they don't have a phone number in the record and call. You can call the attorneys of those people and attack from every angle, and it can be very, very profitable. Any questions on the probates? Good. Hold on 1 second. All right, there we go. So a few words about making the deal. Paying. So really, what I'll say about this slide here, I'm just going to go off the top with this, is that you could do all the marketing in the world and come up with a sales letter where you get a huge response rate. So just so you know, the average nationwide response rate for any direct mail campaign is 0.5 to 1% if you're lucky. So if you get one call out of 100, you're doing good. Anything above that is even better. But let's just say you got a 50% response rate and you send 100 letters and 50 people called you. You can botch your entire operation by going into the house and not building the right rapport with the seller. So it's very important that if you know how to market, is to also know how to go into the house and have confidence and be able to do your thing, so you're not just wasting money on marketing and then having a conversion issue. And that's one of the things that I see, because I do this coaching and business strategy all the time with my agents and other investors, is all right, well, if you're getting all these appointments, why are you not converting? So one of the biggest mistakes that I made when I first got started, we would do all this direct mail, then I would go into the house, and I didn't have any comps with me. I wasn't prepared to make an offer. I was nervous and shy. I didn't know the business well enough. And I would see the house and be all right, I'll call you in 2 days with an offer. Never even tried to do anything but go look at the house, and I wasn't converting anything. And then I talked to someone, they said, no, you have to go into the house, contract in hand, and have all of this artillery ready to fire back at objections and blah, 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 blah. And then at that point, that's when I started converting one deal after another, after another, after another. And the secret to all this is, most of the time today, I go in with nothing at all. It's just, I'll have some things just in case, but my whole entire thing is just going in and getting to know the seller on a personal level. Even if I don't get the contract, I don't care. What's important to me is that I go in there, not have any expectations. I want to have a good conversation. And a lot of times in Philadelphia, it gets very interesting because I'll ask stories about, well, what was the neighborhood like back when you grew up here, because this person, I've dealt with like a lot of elderly people that might be in their 80s, and they'll tell me stories about what life was like. And by the end of all of these conversations, it leads to a person knowing you, liking you, and trusting you to the point that they're ready to do business with you. And that's always been, has made me successful in anything I've ever done. And it also comes from the heart. It's not a sales tactic for me. It's just being myself. I don't have any sales training until this, got into this real estate thing. I never read any books on marketing or anything like that. I just went and just did it. And it works, to this day. So everyone has a different approach, but I never put major amount of pressure on people. I never go in and bash a person's house and say, look at this ugly hole in the roof and it's going to cost thousands of dollars to fix it. This has never been my MO to do that. And I've never had to. So it's like very important when you're going into the house to build the right rapport with the seller. Any questions about that?
Yeah, Bill, can I add just a word about the sales skills? If you personally don't know how to sell, and I dare to say most of the people in this room, not all, but most don't know how to sell, bring somebody with you who does. It takes years to learn how to sell properly.
Right.
And these 5 steps that we have listed here, if you don't get the answers to those questions, you're never going to get a deal made. And it takes a long time to be able to have this conversation and close the deal. So this is all that we're going to say tonight about sales. The whole rest of the evening is about marketing and getting the lead. But if you don't know how to close the deal or make the sale, bring somebody with you who does.
Right.
And take as much sales training as is possible for you to take. That's really, really critical.
Right. And
Thanks,
I still don't know anything about sales, I say, and I strategically stayed away from it because sometimes I don't want to know what it is that I'm doing right because it's right. So why mess it up? But to his point, everyone should know a lot about sales, but sales and marketing go hand in hand. So
that is not good advice, Bill.
It is not. Actually, everyone in this book should read the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene, and it can change your entire life. And it sounds like a sinister book, but it's actually a book on human psychology, and it will just help you relate and understand people. Because when it comes to marketing, it is actually salesmanship in print, because most of the time you're unable to talk to someone. So you have to know how to sell before you even walk through the door, sell enough to even get them to call you. And when you start thinking about all of these things with pain and the money, the competition, decision, timing, the more you can touch on these things in your sales letters. So I spend a lot of time studying direct response copywriting, and that's probably my one specialty when it comes to marketing is writing words on paper that get people to move to action. And all of it boils down to human psychology. So as I got further and further into marketing, I'm like, wow, this is all becoming, like I was saying to you, Jeff, it's a psychology experiment. Like I have like this degree in psychology at this point from having to really know about this stuff. Do you have a question?
Not a question, Bill, but just a comment on the building rapport. Bonnie and I, we walked through, I can't count how many houses in the last couple of years that we've walked through. And I would venture to say at least 10 or 15% of the time, we hear from the owner that, oh yeah, we had Joe Smith come through and he's so business-like. He came in, he looked at the property, we barely talked. He just gave me a number and left. That was it. So this whole idea of building a rapport is a very important piece of the sales process, because without it, I think you miss a lot of opportunities that you would otherwise have an opportunity to get.
So this is one thing, exercise I want everyone in this room to perform. If you're already going through a lot of houses, you just want to take note after you leave every house and have like a Google document or a spreadsheet to write down all of the things that these sellers are saying, like their pain points, their frustrations, what their desires are, what they want their ultimate outcome to be, and logging it every single time. Because when you start to see certain patterns, it'll help you write letters that'll get more people to actually call you. Because I can literally take what these sellers say to me and almost copy verbatim into my sales letter to make it more hypnotic to get a response on it. So there's like one example of like knowing things like timing when it comes to your marketing. So with probate, after 9 months, your inheritance taxes are due. And if you don't pay them, there's all kinds of fines and penalties. But I've never seen an investor actually wait that 9 months and then put a letter out there, say, hey, by the way, if this property is still available, just wanted to send a friend a reminder that according to Act 51, blah, 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 whatever it is, you have to pay your inheritance taxes within the 9th month. If you forgot about it and you're still looking to sell, give me a call. Now you've touched a pain point or a hot button or some reason why they need to take action quicker. And it's just knowing some of these things and then putting it into your marketing. Another thing with that I've discovered with people who inherited properties through doing it over and over and over, most people don't think about is the embarrassment that people have that, oh my God, like my mother has lived in this house for so long and now I have to have a bunch of people trampling through it. It's filled with all this clutter. The house is outdated. There might be little brown stains in the roof. And you might not think anything of it, but it's a very powerful thing. And I've seen it over and over and over where it's like they're uncomfortable showing me the house and they make these little comments. They're almost subconscious. They're not directly coming out and saying, well, I'm just totally embarrassed. But when I notice it, now, if I put that verbiage and I have into a sales letter to even get them to call me next time, how much more effective could that letter be when other people feel that same way? They can't be the only one that feels that way. So it's like, if I just put a sentence in there, if you just want peace of mind and you just want to sell this house without having a million realtors and buyers in the marketplace trampling through your house over and over and over, I can make it easy and painless by being the only person that will ever see this house. I didn't mention anything about embarrassment, but I spoke right to that point. So whoever's thinking that, the more and more, like, every word inside of a sales letter actually has to have another, like, oh, this person gets knocked off the list, and this person who's embarrassed gets knocked off the list. This person who's worried about the inheritance taxes gets knocked off the list. And this person who wants, the most money, I'll even write something in there for them. It's like, I'm willing to pay top dollar for your house if you give me a call. Top dollar to me means top dollar that I'm willing to pay. And top dollar to me means when I go in, I'm going to offer my best price right up front. So that's how I define top dollar. But someone who's like, oh, I just want the best price, I can get them to call by saying these types of things. So this is the stuff with my marketing brain that I use to create different sales letters and marketing messages or things that I'll do in video or other content to get people to call. So just think about that. Now, every marketplace is different. So someone in foreclosure might be thinking something totally different. This happens all the time. A lot of people in foreclosure are literally scared to death that the sheriff is going to come guns blazing one day and kick them out and point guns at their kids. And they literally live in fear because they don't know that there's a process of getting evicted after a foreclosure. So if you're going after people in foreclosure, to be able to tap into that, in whatever way you can, is another powerful thing. That it's like, hey, you might go at it you have options. You're not going to get kicked out of here. Give me a call and I'll explain how all of this works. Well, that's pretty disarming and builds a rapport where someone's actually caring about what I'm thinking about. So those types of things, always just document. And if you don't go through a lot of houses now, then ask the people who are constantly going in and out of houses, the more experienced investors, what kind of conversations they're having with the sellers so that you can start taking notes. Because this stuff also works when you're in the house. So from your marketing piece to your salesmanship, it all is very important. Questions about that?
Bill, can you asked me to nod, right? So yes. I'm nodding. Could you try to complete the rest of the slide deck in about 15 minutes or so we give time to the other presenters?
We're going to get to the good stuff in here. So many methods for finding. So you have direct access to distressed properties for sale, techniques to prospects to contact you. We talked about cold contacts, techniques for getting referrals. So one thing is, everyone, even if you're doing your own direct mail, you should be networking with other wholesalers. I still buy deals from wholesalers. Matter of fact, we just signed up a contract today, $36,500. There's a comp on the street at $270. It's a little bit of a bigger house, but that came through one of my agents who brought it to me before they did anything with it. I said, all right, well, we'll pay you $10,000 if we can get it at this price. So like I have my agents that are interested in investing, working to find things. So you utilize your network, tap into realtors and just tell them, like, hey, anytime you get a property before it hits the market, give me a shot. They have 3 days legally to market a deal before it actually has to go in trend. And then tell them they can keep both sides of the commission. And then tell them, because remember, everyone tunes into WIIFM radio. What's in it for me? So the realtors are going to say, oh, I'm going to get both sides when you buy it. And then when you flip it, I'm going to get a 6% commission on the back end. How many pocket listings do you think you're going to get over time? And I have a broker's license. I've been a realtor. I have 150 of them working for me. That will sing songs to them. So, and realtors do come across deals, and you would want to be networking with as many of them in your network as possible. And then following up, like sending an auto text or an auto email or a call to go out like once a month to say, hey, what do you have in the pipeline? Because I've done hundreds of wholesale deals, and everyone wants to be in line. But usually the person that gets it is the one that calls all the time. And I randomly have a deal in West Philadelphia, and they call that day. I'm like, oh, I do have a deal, so you can have it, because I'd rather not market it if I don't have to. So makes definitely good to make contacts. Sheriff sales, talk to Mark Sherby. He's the resident guru. I personally have never had success with sheriff sales. I think that there's a lot more better ways to get deals. The thing I don't like about sheriff sales personally is that unless like you're like me, you're kicking in doors and trying to break in and see the houses, you're buying a Christmas present that most of the time you don't want to open because it's not what it seems on the inside. I've seen houses that look beautiful on the outside, and you get in and the back wall's missing and things like that. And you also have to understand a lot about the title and the lien process, because I've seen people purchase second mortgages. There'd be a $40,000 second on a $500,000 house, but they didn't realize there was a $400,000 first mortgage that they were going to buy that was subject to the second. So like those types of things you really have to be very careful of with sheriff sales. But there are people who make money doing it. And I do have some clients that are successful with the auction.com, Hubzu, and I don't know anything about the Zone site, but those are all online sites. And if you're looking for deals, you might as well be there and put bids in on places, because you never know where your deal is going to come from. We could spend thousands of dollars in direct mail, and next thing you know, an agent brings us something. It's like, well, why isn't the direct mail working? So it's good to have some angles. Wholesalers, we talked about that. Banks, it's very hard to get a direct relationship with the bank. You can call, Barb, you probably have experience calling asset managers. They're not going to talk to someone who wants to buy one property, right? They're looking to sell packages of notes and big money. That being said, the REO brokers, they know what's coming to the market, and good people to network with. Same with the people who are investing in notes. They may know some properties in the area as well. So Facebook, I don't know. There's someone out there teaching Facebook marketing. This is my thing with Facebook marketing and LinkedIn and all the social media. Remember, you almost have to have like 2 or 3 different business cards and propositions. Like, you may not necessarily want to be the We Buy Houses guy on Facebook. You might be the guy who is, I'm a private investor looking for money type of guy to invest in real estate person. So LinkedIn is what I use in Facebook to find. I might not find a probate property there, but I can find someone to lend money on my probate property through the social media channels. So that's like another tip, is to separate your businesses. And the big mistake I see with a lot of people at dig meetings and other places is that you have one We Buy Houses business card, but most of you here are looking to borrow private money. And it's like, why not have a card that says you're a guy who borrows and places private money into lucrative investments, and then have that card going on. And on the back of it, you might have a before and after picture of your last project. So I use social media for that type of stuff. Newspaper ads can be effective. They're kind of like bandit signs. We buy houses, and they can hit a demographic of, most of the people who we're buying houses from are older anyway. So the people who are reading the newspaper in that demographic, there could be, I know some people that are very successful with newspaper ads, and most people have forgotten that they're an effective source. So techniques for the prospect to call you. We just did again, we have multiple channels. This came from a service I think called ZBuyer. They sell leads by the county. There's lots of stuff like WeBuyHouses.com. They do all the SEO for you, and then they charge you a monthly fee or a per lead fee to give you sellers that have hit their site and said they have interest in selling a house. We get addresses, phone numbers. We just did one where we purchased the house for, I think it was $25,000, and sold it for $65,000. Did no work to it. We just bought it, thought we were going to keep it as a rental, didn't like the numbers after looking at it. We had too much inventory, put it on the market at some crazy high number, just like, all right, we can sell it. Great. If not, we'll just wait to rehab it. And it ended up selling like that in a neighborhood in Kensington. It's kind of close to transition. It shocked me, but the person had his own agent and it was a normal transaction. And I couldn't believe it. So that deal came from the internet. So it's just surprising that deals can come from anywhere. Techniques for making cold contacts. So we talked about postcards. We talked about yellow letters. Is anyone actually using the yellow letter and has success with it right now? It just seems like, and you're still doing pretty good. Hey, if it's working, it's working. So if everyone, does everyone know what split testing is? It's where you take your list, and let's say you have 1,000 names, and now Bonnie's going to decide to do 500 yellow letters, and then she's going to try it with 500 of a letter that she wrote or some other letter and see what gets the better response. And then whichever one gets the better response, you can start using that letter and then change that incrementally from time to time and then make it as good as you possibly can. So like when you get more into advanced marketing, split testing can really help you figure out what's working and what's not working. Then again, talking about drip marketing is once that lead comes in, having some automation. So we have auto text messages that go out, auto emails. We have events that go out to people that come learn about, what it's really like to sell your house to an investor. We do all different kinds of things. So having that automated follow-up in addition to what you're doing by yourself can really help you convert more leads over time. There's a lot of just details there. Networking with lawyers is another way. Think about it, divorce lawyers, divorce attorneys, probate lawyers. So think about people. There's a big, huge reason that houses sell is because of divorce. It's an awful thing, but it is what it is. So us as investors can come in and help people in that time of need. So marketing to the divorce list or divorce attorneys is something that is I don't see many investors doing. Assisted living centers. I know some people who have hit nursing homes and had some success with that type of stuff. And that's just more like door to door, but it's business to business instead of business to consumer. Lists of real estate agents. We talked about going after them. Out of state owners. Everyone knows you can target people who live out of state and own properties here because they're more likely to be motivated. When I do that list, I don't target the LLCs. I'm usually targeting those who own properties in their individual names because I feel like they're more likely to have a motivated situation or may not be like a professional management or landlord company. So I go after those ones. And of course, we're talking about foreclosed, inherited, and a lot of that stuff we already touched on. Eviction lists. In Philadelphia, you can go to data.philly.com, whatever that says. Just look up Data Philly, and you can look up by zip code people who are delinquent on their taxes, the sheriff sales, the tax sales, and there's all kinds of lists you can get there, code violations, and it's all free on the Philadelphia site if you invest there. And we talked a lot about this stuff, high equity owners. I personally don't target anyone who doesn't have equity. I don't like doing the short sales and all of that. I want people to have high amounts of equity so I have more control of the offer and terms that I can make with the owner. A farming area. So I'll give you a farming on steroids idea where if you're going to farming comes from like realtors where they send a newsletter or a postcard to the neighborhood once a month with a cookie recipe or blah, 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 blah. For investors to do it, it's almost like, okay, you go to Brewery Town and then 1 month you put out 100 bandit signs. And then a week later or a month later, you put 1,000 flyers out into that neighborhood. And then a week after that, you're going to cold call everyone in the neighborhood. And then the next week, you're going to door knock in the neighborhood until you just do it. Every week you just do something different, but you're just hitting that neighborhood in different ways every single time until people just get to know you and maybe you brand yourself in some sort of way by putting a picture. And I think that when it comes to marketing, I've never seen, maybe a few after I gave them the advice, to put pictures of yourself or something in that letter that makes you look less shady. I don't understand why investors have to be so shady with the letters that they send out. Like, you don't put anything in there about you, who you are. And remember, like, marketing piece should build a relationship and a rapport with someone. So if you had a picture of you and your dog, or you and your husband, and you're the ones buying houses together, whatever the case is, could be a very disarming thing to someone who's already suspect of you to begin with. And that's another thing about marketing. Like, what are all the reasons why somebody wouldn't call you? And what can you do inside of your marketing piece to get them to call you, dealing with those objections? So you could put a picture in there, and I would probably tell a quick little story. Like, you're probably getting all these weird yellow letters, and because they're already thinking like, what are these yellow letters, and why are so many people sending them to me? Probably getting all these, shady looking yellow letters with people who don't include their pictures. So here's a big picture of me and my dog and my family. We're a local home buying company, and here's how we can benefit you. That I would test that against other marketing pieces to see what kind of response you get. I just had some real estate agents test a similar letter, a little bit different, and they sent out 100 letters and got 5 listings off of it in like the first 2 weeks off of just 100 letters to their neighborhood. So that personal touch really does work. So that's how you farm an area. Because if you're farming, that means you are going to continue to saturate an area when you don't know when someone's going to be ready to sell. So you want to make sure those people know who you are. Doing a rehab, knock on the doors. That's a very good idea. So when you're out there, you should already have like your We Buy Houses signs out there to try to get more and talk to the neighbors, and also let them know that it's like, hey, we're here to improve your community. And a lot of times in Philadelphia, every street has a block captain, and being able to talk and reason with those people can really help you figure out where that next vacant property is. So what can happen is in Philadelphia specifically, like a boarded up property is what I call terminally ill house with cancer that you can't cure. Because once it's already boarded up, it's probably owned by the city and there's nothing else you can do with it. But the type of vacant properties that they don't really look vacant or you're not sure, those are the ones that you can still get to before it's too late. So the block captains in the neighborhoods, they'll know like, oh, Bessie moved out of here 2 years ago. It's been vacant ever since, and her son comes by once a month to get the mail. Ding, 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 ding. So that's when to say, hey, if you can go over here and help me get in touch with this person, I'd greatly appreciate it. So that's something you can and should do at every opportunity. And that's what I call marketing that is digging deeper to the assets you already have right in front of you. If you have an investment property, it's the perfect excuse to reach out to the neighbors in some shape, form, or fashion and let them know what you're doing to get them to back your movement. Again, meet up, setting up, like you have, if anyone's been at Dig long enough, you can have a subgroup in a different area where there's maybe not other people there. Stephanie, how long is it? You have to be a member for a year before you can have a Dig subgroup. So having your own subgroup in your area, wherever you are, gives you more authority than when you're just sitting there amongst everyone else. So now you're an authority figure, you're an expert, and you're the one talking. So it's going to be easier for you to get lender contacts and other things and wholesalers bringing you deals because you're putting the time, energy, and effort into starting a group every month. So, talking to Stephanie and other people at Dig, they're always looking for volunteers to do stuff like that, right, guys? So, join professional associations. Of course, you have Digs and the Chamber of Commerce's and all of those things. SCORE, that's a mentoring organization for marketing, right, Don, where they will help you anything from operations to scaling, growing. And that's the one thing. Getting started, you just want to get a few deals, but as your organization grows into something, you're going to quickly realize that this is all about systems, processes, and things that we're not used to doing, like delegating to other people. And I've had to do a lot of hiring and firing over the last year and doing more hiring and more firing and learning about systems and processes. And it's a place like SCORE can really help you get to the next level. We talked about the MLS and the real estate agents, signs in front of the lawn, look for ads, people buying and selling. Talked about a lot of that stuff. Make as many offers as possible. How many offers? The man with the blue shirt over there, you got some marketing that's working, right? How many offers do you think you made in the last 30 days? That's almost an offer a day. So that's where you want to be at. Like, double that. Get to 40 or 50 offers as much as you can. Be making offers, and it will come around. It's all a numbers game. Can't even read the references. All right, so I think we're good, right, Dom? Yep. We're going to move over to Bonnie. So I'll give you an intro. So Bonnie, you're an awesome real estate investor, and you do this. You're full time, part time, and so it is possible to invest part time. Now you do flips, rentals.
I'm not even turned on yet.
Oh, you can turn off my mic and maybe go to her.
Yes, my father and I started approximately 2 years ago. We do mostly flipping and wholesaling in the Bucks and Montgomery County areas.
Bonnie, let me get your slide deck up.
Okay. The name of our business is Flipping Partners. We do this on a part-time basis. We both work full-time jobs during the day, and nights, weekends, and any other free time we have is spent with the business. I myself have a background in database development. I work with SQL, Access, any kind of database. So for me, one of the biggest bets was with the marketing side, being able to handle incorporating the data into an Access database and doing the mailings. That's our biggest lead generation process. We do use RealFlow, but with RealFlow, we're basically using that more as a contact management software after the fact. All of my main processing is handled in my Access database myself that I've generated, and we do multiple touches on several of our campaigns. A lot of the stuff I'm going to go over is actually, what's the backwards? Whoa. All right, something's wrong. Backwards, forwards, which one's which? All right. Sorry, guys. I am not usually technically challenged, but for some reason, it's not moving. All right. So a lot of stuff that Bill already went over, I'm going to touch upon too. Sorry for the repeat. Obviously, there's lots of different ways to market your business. There's the internet and all the stuff listed there, direct mail, and there's other strategies. We've dabbled in a couple different ones over the last 2 years, and some of them we found to be not so pleasant and fun and too costly. Other ones seem to be the ones that we generate the most leads from. Because our target audience for us, we look at it, we're looking more at the older generation, getting out of their households and downsizing and that kind of thing. So most of those people might not be as savvy with emails, or, you know, they're bombarded with them, so they're tired of looking at them and just goes into spam anyway. So we've avoided going down that track and stuck more with the direct mail. One of the first things we tried was bandit signs. We didn't go full force and do the 100 per month or anything like that, but we were dabbling in it. And one of the problems we came across was the fact that a lot of times you're going to need to have a permit to put them up. And of course, people, why is this doing? To get the permits and everything else, we didn't hassle with that. We didn't want to bother. But what we would do is we'd go out on a Friday night after most of the local law enforcement and things like that were off for the weekend. We'd put up our signs in multiple areas, and then on Sunday night, we'd go back out and pick them up. What we found happening a lot of times was that either they were picking them up or other investors were going around because they saw us as competition and would steal them, and we would just lose them. It's a time-consuming process. We didn't have runners for us, but if you're going to do something like that, I suggest you hire somebody cheaply to go around and put the signs up for you. Avoid putting anything on that's really going to direct them to yourself. For your business, you can put your phone number, but putting your website on there or your company name on there, it might give law enforcement a better way of finding you if you're not getting a permit.
Cell phone or a Google Voice to check
Google Voice. Our business runs through Google Voice, so that was one good thing, but we did make the mistake of putting our website on there. Didn't get us in trouble, but I'm just forewarning people that, you know, that can happen. It does give you high visibility in target areas, though. It's someplace, like if you're in Brewery Town or someplace like that, it's great. Up around here, you're a little more open space, so you're not as congested. So you need to really pick your target area wisely. You don't want to be having, if you're doing it yourself, you don't want to be running around all over Bucks and Montgomery County putting these up multiple times a week. You can also use this as a great way of marketing to other wholesalers and investors in the area. If you see a sign, you should be getting their numbers and getting in contact with them to get on their list and vice versa. It's a great networking tool. Problem is, some of these people that are doing it might not be like dig-friendly people. They believe in themselves and not growing their business the smart way and networking. They feel that they need to do it all themselves and want to hold on to it. We got a very low response rate. I think we had 2 or 3 responses from this. Like I said, it was a very short-term thing, very minimal. We tried it for several months, off and on. And they were all wholesalers. Advertising. We've tried a couple of these things as well. There's church bulletins, home improvement magazines, newsletters, placemats. I even had a call 2 weeks ago about putting our information on hand sanitizers at the grocery store. Yeah, business card dispensers, flyers, online with Facebook, Craigslist, Google AdWords, etc. Again, you can get some targeted visibility there depending on where you're at. But it's costly, and we really did not get much out of that. We did a 1-year thing with the church bulletin. We never got a single phone call. We've tried the home improvement mags. We haven't seen any response. I think maybe 1 response or 2 responses from that. The business card dispensers, we've put them out a couple places in the past, and I find even had it here a couple times, and they're gone by the time we come back the following month. So someone uses our holder and puts their own cards in and gets rid of our cards. Yeah. So, you just got to be careful. Just realize that this kind of thing's going to happen and spend your money wisely, because it is a learning curve. And as you're learning, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to learn from it and just figure out what works best for you. Direct mail, like I said, is our primary focus for marketing. There's several different lists out there that you can purchase from different sites. Bill went over a majority of these, so I'm not going to read them all, but it makes it very targeted. You could really dig deep into some of these lists and narrow it down to what you're looking for. The specific area, the age of the house, how much money they have in equity. All of those things can be parameterized in a lot of these searches and lists that you can find online. I know RealFlow does offer those lists, and we get access to some of them, and we've dabbled a little bit in multiple kinds of mailings, sometimes a single touch, which we've learned is not as effective, obviously, as multiple touches.
Do you personalize, Bonnie? Like put people's first names in the letter?
We actually tried that. We did have that a couple times. Depending on the list you get, you might not get a name. So certain lists, we try to put it in there, dear property owner or dear so-and-so, and then we'll continue on. Other ones we'll just keep it generic and not even put a name on it. I've actually gotten calls where a very irate person called, and the name that came through was the person who had died. They're still listed as the homeowner. And the family was so upset because, it's been how long since the father had died. The wife is extremely upset because she's getting a mail, some piece of mail with his name on it, which is going to happen anyway. That's life. But still, it is disheartening to hear people upset about that. But yeah, we try to target it as much as possible. We've tried different kinds of text in the letters. We've done exactly like Bill said. We've used sample audiences and tried different things. And we just keep progressing. As you go through, you're going to keep learning. And it's also going to change. Some people are going to like it one way and you're fine. And then other people are going to get upset with what you say. I gave a couple examples here. I just pulled these off of online. But we do the yellow letter first, and then we do postcard mailing for any of our follow-ups. A touch is basically how many times you're reaching out to them during a campaign and trying to reach them. As I said, I created an access database that I use for myself. I pull in my leads from an outside source, pull them into my system, dedupe them, run through the whole process. It takes me or my son, whoever's running it that day, probably about 10 minutes to actually run the program behind the scenes, because there is some manual deduping that we do. We have to look at the records, and then we actually print out the yellow letter ourselves and mail it. The file itself gets sent over to a service, and they do the printing out for the postcards for us. We oftentimes in our list get multiple addresses. For example, you'll get one for the property, one for the mailing address, one for the person who's on the probate, the attorney. It could be a various list. We target every single one of those. I dedupe them to make sure we're not doing the same one twice, and go ahead and ensure that they all get it out there. We also get, like I said, multiple touches. Our target right now is, I think we're doing 6 or 7 for our multiple touch mailings. And, sometimes it even goes out like a year and a half. We actually just got a call 2 weeks ago from someone who had gotten our letter the last time, was January 2017. And she actually contacted us that long after. So it's impressive. Types, area, size, market value. One prospect may own other properties. An example of that is we mailed to somebody who lived in Bala Cynwyd area, and her husband had passed away. He was an avid investor who actually had 7 units in Philadelphia, 7 apartments that they were currently renting out, and all of them were occupied. Granted, we couldn't do much with it. We tried to pass it off to a couple investors that we had known at the time, and she actually did wind up selling them. But you don't know. Even targeting, like for ours, we're not going to limit a lot of this stuff because we're not sure what we could get out of it. There might be more to a deal than just that one property that we're talking about. And that's happened probably 4 times now. It might be a small thing, but it could be a big thing. Okay, this is how we're doing. About 14.5% of all contacts we receive are returned weeks later as non-deliverable. They had no other valid address. If there's no other valid address, then we'll do a lookup and try to find a valid address online for them, whether through the property records or elsewhere. And put that into the program. It'll go ahead and spit it out in the next load that we do. About 2% of the property owners request removal from the list. We do take those off our list. I know certain other investors, like the Dumeyers, I believe they don't even worry about it. They just keep mailing to people. I just feel if they're not interested, they're not interested. And it's probably a bad thing for us. I don't know how you handle yours.
Well, first, I'm extremely impressed by how you're tracking your numbers. But that's the one thing about marketing. You should always be tracking and measuring. So
I
just want to pat you on the back really hard right now. If they asked to be removed, I would remove them.
Yeah, some people feel that it's worthwhile keeping them in there, and eventually you bug them enough and they'll get in touch with you and work with you. I don't know. He had to step away.
I'll just speak louder. So I have actually a follow-up question on that for you guys, which is, for those that want to be removed from the list, sometimes the same names are like maybe first the husband died and then maybe the wife died a couple months later or something like that, or a year later. Like sometimes the same person pops up again on the list. How do you handle that?
I've actually gotten where it'll come in as 2 different records for me. Okay. So I keep them separate. and they're processed, even though we're doing some deduping and stuff like that. If we see that that's the case, then we'll start mailing it again because it's not really related necessarily to the original record. It depends. I try to keep them separated though.
So I think with my approach, most of the time I'd be more commercial about it. Just like, all right, if the same house pops back up again, it's all going to go into the funnel until someone tells me not to call. So I wouldn't micromanage that part.
I think especially because the situation might change to the point where somebody does now want to sell the house. It isn't necessarily a bad thing that a year ago they told you that they don't want to hear from you again, but now maybe the situation changed. So that's just
Okay, about 19% of the properties are sold either prior to us getting it in our mailings, I've noticed, or within the first couple months after we've gotten the listings. So I'm also going through and matching those to my system and actually marking them so we don't bother contacting them because we're not going to get them if the price is already out of range. I like to remove them because it keeps the cost down on the mailings. I also don't want to bother people that don't want to be bothered. From what I can see so far, the first touch has the highest response rate, followed closely by the second, third, and fourth touches. Anything after that is kind of intermittent. It's very rare, but it does happen. Like I said, it's been a year and a half and that woman called. So you just don't know. We have about 3.5% response rate on multiple touch mailings. Now, just realize I've done this within the last couple of weeks and went through and did a comparison of what I have overall in all of our mailings versus all of our leads from RealFlow. And this is only going off the mailings. This is not even touching all our other sources. We've got about a 1.5% response rate on single touch mailings because we've done a couple where we're just going to try it and see what would happen. And we've gone ahead and done like postcards to those, but we're only getting a 1.5% response rate on those. So it goes to show you how much keeping up on a regular flow and keeping your name and your information out there to people impacts them.
Question for you now. With what you're doing here, have you tried yet any sort of in-house mailing campaign, I call it, where say everyone who's already called in over the last year, you decide, let's just do a batch mailing 2 or 3 to the people and say, hey, we were in contact at least 6 months ago and you expressed interest. Are you still interested in selling? Give me a call.
Yeah, we are actually in the process, like I said, because we're working full time, it's been a little difficult to manage some of this stuff. I just recently got through going through our entire RealFlow database and narrowing down our open leads. Anything that's already sold is no longer an open lead. Anything that's been a do not contact me again is no longer a valid lead right now. That might be something we go back and look at later, but we are following back up, and people that we spoke to a year ago we're actually making contact with and making appointments to go see their properties. So, okay, some of the tips that I want to leave everybody with, and Bill definitely touched on at least half of these. Be consistent.
You saw your slides earlier.
Be consistent. Familiarize your sellers. Familiarizes your sellers with your name and your business. We typically don't put our business name in there. We keep it just our names, but they're going to know my first and last name, no doubt. Be persistent. Until a property sells, it's a viable lead. Be creative. Think outside the box. Try to be first only in the door. That's your biggest chance. Right now, the competition is severe. I know we're big competitors right here. We're always seeing the same properties.
So, like, it just for the audience, I might try to be the first and the last person in the house. So I'm very strategic when I'm on the phone with sellers to say, hey, like, have you talked to anyone else? How many more appointments do you have scheduled? What kind of offers do you get? You'd be surprised at what people let out of the bag. But if I realize that there's going to be people out there on Friday and it's Monday, I'm either going to cancel that appointment and come the day after and say, look, why don't I just come out on Saturday, or I'm going to go out there on Monday for a cursory build relationship, feel it out, and if I can get it, but most of the time I'm going to come in for a second appointment. Did you guys get that strategic with your appointments at all?
You back on? Okay. Not to that degree. I mean, typically it's, we get in, we try to get in as soon as we possibly can, which again is more difficult because of our timing. But we do have a team of people that we work with that will go out if we're not able to go out to a property. But I do like that idea.
Yeah. Yeah, I think just to piggyback off of that, it is challenging to be flexible enough with one's time when you also have a full-time job. But at the same time, I also do ask those questions as well and try to get a sense for, is the seller trying to set up an open house where they're just like having 10 investors in there at the same time, so, we try to avoid those if we can. But I do listen for clues, like somebody says, I had this person and that person and they never called me back and they never gave me an offer and I've been waiting 2 weeks on them and I still haven't heard. And that's when I jump in. I start to, try to make that a priority to go see that house as soon as I can.
Okay. Be diligent, follow up, do not leave leads hanging. You don't want to miss out on those opportunities. That's what a great CRM is for. You keep your contacts in there, you keep track of them, you monitor them, you make sure that, if something's still out there and it hasn't sold yet, try again. Be in their faces, let them know who you are, keep them thinking about it. Obviously you don't want to be overbearing and be there every 2 weeks or something like that, but you do want to follow up. Give it some time, but don't wait too long. Be sincere, build rapport, have compassion. Most people respect you more than the all business types. And that, like my father said earlier, there's been several times we've been in a house where someone said, yeah, we had so-and-so through last, and they came in, gave us an offer, and that was it. We don't want to work with someone like that. We like you guys. You guys are easy to talk to. And that's helped us out on several occasions. So I don't have anything else. I'm going to pass along.
Let me get your slide deck up.
Sell their property to me for less money than the person who offered more, just because of the personality, or they feel like they can trust me more. And you're doing it right when you have those types of responses. So it's interesting. It's really not always about the money. Bond building is huge.
All right. And to break up any possibility for awkward silence, I will start talking. So I'm Igor Zabrodin. I'm at this with my fiance, Annie Lou. She's sitting there in the front row. We've been investing also for about 2.5 years, and we've been DIG members for about 2.5 years as well. So today I just want to kind of describe to you what we do as far as marketing to find deals and also potentially having deals find us. Our goals are to buy up as many investment properties to buy and hold as we can, so that we can, our first hurdle is to replace our primary job income. We both have a full-time job right now. I also am a dance instructor, and I've been doing that for decades. So that's also takes up a lot of my time. So let's get into this. So I just want to actually highlight some of the specific online resources that I use that are really helpful in the business. Hopefully everybody can see this, and you'll get to see the slides on Don and Marty's website after the fact. But here are the links for the tax assessors' records for the various counties, and including some information on New Jersey as well. I use these sites to basically verify the addresses of the people that I'm going to mail to. I also look up addresses of properties that I'm interested in specifically. Get a lot of good tax information on these websites, so that's very helpful. The one that has the asterisk next to it for Delaware County, I haven't been able to find a way to search by the owner's name on that one, but every other one you can search by owner's name, you can search by parcel ID, by property address. So these are really helpful resources. So Annie and I mostly do our direct mail marketing to probate leads. So that would be, like as Bill and Bonnie said, that would be people who are personal representatives of an estate. So essentially, if someone dies, then there's an estate file that's opened with the counties, and a person is a personal representative of that estate file. We market mainly to Bucks and Montgomery counties. So what we do is we don't buy lists. We actually physically generate our own lists from the court records. In Bucks and Montgomery County, those court records are readily available. Montgomery County gives you everything from personal representatives to interested parties, so that you can easily, qualify potentially your leads. A lot of times there's a whole laundry list of interested parties, and then you'll find out that, there could be like 3 other people living at the property, and, you can filter out that way. The Register of Wills, as Bill mentioned, is the actual court record type for that has, amongst other things, it has probate records. The prothonotary link that's down below is actually useful if you're looking at potential foreclosure properties, but we haven't really marketed to that type of list. So the primary 2 up front are the ones that we market to, direct mail. Okay. Whoa, I see what you mean. All right. So what we mainly do is we direct mail market to personal representatives. There's something called the Letters of Testamentary, which is a document in the Register of Wills court records that signifies that someone has been named a personal representative for somebody's estate after their passing. PR, personal representative, can either be an executor or executrix, or an administrator or administratrix. And the basic difference is that if somebody's executing the will, it means that, somebody's executing the will, it means that there was a will that was left by the decedent. If they've been named an administrator or administratrix, it means that the court has named them the representative for the estate, but there has been no will. To me, I don't know if I've noticed any big trend or difference in if somebody's one or the other. So we typically mail to both. What I found also is I use a free skip tracing website called fastpeoplesearch.com, and it does give everything from landlines to wireless numbers to addresses to relatives, similar to what Bill was saying. A lot of times you either have an incorrect address, or you just want to look up the person's phone number because it's a property that's right next to the property that you just renovated, and you just want to talk to them because you already know what the street is like, what the market's going to be like for that property. So you can basically cold call. That's what I do using that website. I don't cold call much unless I know exactly what property it is that pops up in our list. For our direct mail, we use an invitation style envelope with a half-page letter. So exactly what Bill was mentioning earlier, which is we basically have 2 copies of the same message on half of an 8.5 by 11 paper sheet, and we essentially mail that out. The total cost of that is just a little over 52 cents a letter because we actually buy the envelopes and the paper in bulk, and we sometimes get the stamps cheaper. If you buy them at Costco, they're 25 cents cheaper per roll of 100.
Are you handwriting all of your envelopes?
We are not handwriting. We are using a handwritten like font for our envelopes, and we're just simply using printed font letters.
Closer to the mic, Bill, please.
Yeah, just asking him. So I'm guessing the reason why it's done that way because it looks like it's a personal, like, oh, someone invited me to a wedding or something else, and they get in it and it's like, oh, it's just this White House. But it gets it open, right?
Yeah, I think it's much more effective to have something that is either handwritten or if you're doing this in large volume, it's a good idea to establish some kind of handwritten font that you can then use over and over again and basically print out your envelopes that way. So we use Podio as our contact management software. We use the free version of Podio, and actually everything that we do with the direct mail marketing is accomplished with the free version of Podio. Annie she's a YouTube connoisseur. It's one of her favorite words recently. And she actually just learns a bunch of stuff on YouTube, like in 10 minutes or less. So she looked up a bunch of ways to use Podio and kind of built out our system. She's the brains of the operation. I'm the heart and muscle. So that's kind of how we work. So Podio is a great system because it allows you to integrate very well and effectively with Microsoft applications as well as Google. So with Microsoft applications, we're able to essentially just simply create lists in Excel from all of the records, court records that we are able to generate manually. And then you're able to easily, with a few clicks, import an entire list into Podio. And then you're able to update that list for whenever you send your repeat mailings. Podio also integrates very effectively with Google Calendar. So you can immediately put your appointments right into Podio, and then it'll go right into your Google Calendar. You get all your reminders. And that way, an additional benefit to that is you can easily track not only your schedule, but your mileage for what you use to see the properties. What else is a good benefit of Podio with integration? I think, Podio also, you can easily build out ways that you can just drop in your photos very quickly for when you've seen the house. You can also easily drop in links from Dropbox. So all of our files that we have are via Dropbox. And then essentially you just put that right into Podio as well, see the files there. And then finally, the best feature about Podio that we've integrated is Google Voice. So we have Google Voice numbers, and as soon as somebody calls, that automatically creates a lead entry in Podio, so you don't have to go from scratch and build out your entire specification on a property. A lot of that is already built in for you. Google Voice also allows you to capture the recordings of the voicemails directly into Podio, as well as getting a copy to your email and to your text message. So you can, see what somebody said in case you're receiving calls by voicemail. So that's very helpful because that, allows us to quickly filter out the leads that we don't think are going to be leads or people that are just calling, complaining that we're mailing them. So that definitely helps. So some of our statistics, it's not quite as broken down as what Bonnie just showed, but we do have actually pretty similar statistics in a way. We typically do 3 or more mailings to each personal representative from the probate lists that we mail. The ones that get repeat mailings beyond the 3 are either ones that we think might be good rental candidates. So something's in the areas where we already have rental units, or in areas where they're either good schools or low enough taxes where we think I can already see the numbers, working out. Let's keep mailing this one. This is a type of property that that we'd like to target further. I don't know if we talked about it, but a lot of the mailings are ending up being to single family residences, and I don't know if that's a lot of what you see. Yeah. So what we do is we typically do repeat mailings every 4 weeks. So it's not necessarily automated, but we do have essentially a calendar reminder to let us know that it's time to mail, group A, mail 2. Again, we filter out anything that's been listed or sold or looks like it's, just something that's not really going to work out from the repeat mailings. And all I do is just simply, Google the address and see what I can dig up on it real quick. And in about 20 seconds, 10 seconds, I can quickly filter out what we do. So in terms of time, this is something that I don't know if you've mentioned it at all. I basically just went on like 10 minutes before we started, and I got all of the, county probate records for the day in like 15 minutes or less. I put them into Excel in 2 minutes or less, and that kind of is the time commitment there on a daily basis. And then essentially to filter out the leads and to generate repeat mailings, that takes maybe a couple hours on a weekend. So we've gotten it to a pretty fast pace, but it was really slow at first because it was all very manual, and we wanted to kind of be cost efficient with it. So we never really bought lists for that reason. Some statistics we do because of what'd you call it? No. You had a word, deduping or something. All right. Well, I call it debugging, but anyway, same thing. So because of that, we're able to get a really low, bounce back rate. So it's less than 0.5% for all of the mailings that we've ever had. I think that, I'm able to sort of, spend a little bit more time and then just kind of debug things before we send them out. So that's how that works. Our overall positive response rate is 3.5%. This is with all of the mailings combined, and this excludes any kind of angry callers or anything that says, oh, we've already listed it, anything like that. So really, we do get about a maybe 5% call rate on our letters overall. And then, just our more recent statistics. So we do have about 100 leads per year, which means doing just this, which means it's somebody trying to sell their house. It's not that they're not trying to sell or they've already listed it or it's already sold. We've been making about 60 offers per year. I think that number has stayed consistent, but as far as how many have gotten accepted, it's decreased significantly this year. Because of ridiculous, seller's market. But that's overall the average is we've had about 4 accepted per year just by doing the direct mail. Then something else that I do is drive for dollars. So I have target neighborhoods again, either in areas that we already know very well or areas that are close to destinations such as home, work, wherever else we might go. Doing this, I basically either leave cards at doors. I sometimes knock on doors and ask people what their situation is. If I see a really distressed property and somebody's actually still living in it, a lot of times people do say like, well, I can't afford anything else right now, so this is my situation. So I kind of just say, well, if you've got any kind of help along the way, let me know if your situation changes, things like that. I will also use the skip tracing site to then be able to cold call people, especially if I see that it's a non-owner occupied property. Even if it is owner occupied, a lot of times, I'll get somebody who's pretty much ready to potentially move on from the house anyway. So it's a good way to contact people. One of the advantages of driving for dollars is the miles that you drive are deductible if you structure your business right. So you can either track them through MileIQ or other software, or you can just simply track it in your calendar and Google Maps. But it's very convenient if you already have to drive somewhere and you happen to drive through another neighborhood to get to there. This is just a great way to find houses. And I've found that in most cases, I would say about 80% of the ones that I've simply written down while driving by, about 80% of them are owner occupied, and maybe less than 20% are absentee. In which case, we'll either mail or cold call to try to get to the person who owns it. All right. So then the other thing I get is automated alerts. I don't know if we've really talked about that, but there's 2 types that I pay attention to. So I've set up a system through a website called If This Then That, which is ifttt.com. Basically, you can automate alerts from anything, and you can create a widget or an applet or an applet that is not a widget, to create a response based on a certain stimulus. So for example, I have a stimulus in Craigslist that says, if there's something that's 25 miles outside my zip code that is a either a for sale by owner or an investor special or anything like that, that's under 3,500 square feet, that's 2+ bedrooms, 1+ bathroom, send me an email and it automatically comes through just by setting up a widget. So I have several of these for several different criteria, and I get automated emails. So example today, again, before the meeting, I just got a couple of automated emails through stuff that went through on Craigslist, and just quickly emailed the person, asking for further information about a property that they've put up there.
So basically, you almost like hacking into Craigslist.
Closer to the mic, please.
I was just telling them that it's crazy. That's really high tech. It's kind of like, in MLS, you could put the searches up for motivated seller, this, and that, and that's basically an app to comb through Craigslist for you to get the auto notifications and follow up with those people. That's awesome.
Right,
Never
right.
heard of that one before.
Yeah. It's just an online service. I mean, you can get it to basically do anything. Like let's say if you somehow were able to connect it to your, smart home temperature setting or something, like let's say, the setting drops below a certain temperature, you can get something like this to automatically, do something else for you. So for example, you don't even have to say, Alexa, turn on the heater. It'll just, so I'm not saying that you can do all that necessarily, but it is designed to be sort of, again, a stimulus response automator.
Craigslist specific, or can I go through like phillydata.gov and have it pick out certain like criteria for me? I guess is it just specific?
It's not Craigslist specific, so you can certainly get it to automate from other sites or other functions. I don't know exactly. You'd have to dig into it and search for what it can connect to, but I've seen a lot on there.
Could you use the mic, please? Stop talking and use the mic.
Space, but if anybody's interested, just go to Google and do IFTTT. There's all this training on there, and they have hundreds of connectors. So I use it for going into all kinds of databases. Go to this site and sniff, do something. Or like the HVAC thing, my son, I was saying he's 19. I have a sensor in his car, and when my son drives to high school, as soon as he's 10 miles from my house, the temperature goes up in his bedroom, right? So, and then I have another sensor that if he tries to open up my bar, I get a text message. So, these are the kind of things you can do with IFTTT.
Question for you. If I wanted to go through the Philadelphia website and say, all right, tax delinquent people who have been delinquent for a minimum of 3 years in this particular zip code under X, Y, and Z conditions, it can be programmed to do that very easily. That's interesting.
If it has a connector to that website, it has to be specific because the APIs have to be connected. And so not every website in the world goes through IFTTT, but you can check it. Go ahead, Igor.
All right. And then just want to say the last item here is that I also do get automated alerts for anything that's listed. So that, I might find useful. So a lot of people, depend on a realtor or more than one realtor to kind of send them stuff based on their criteria. But realistically, nowadays, you can kind of get all the same stuff popping up on real estate websites like Redfin, Trulia, and Zillow. So to kind of break it down, the whole thing is predicated on the fact that Google's really creepy and tracks everything that you do. So as soon as you sign into anything through Google or use Google Chrome, it automatically starts tracking your activity and what your interests are. So just
not if you use the incognito
yes
version.
So you can do that, but in this case, it's actually useful, where you can essentially get Redfin to send you automated pop-ups onto your phone for areas where you've looked up property value. So the way I use this mostly is to either confirm or to learn about property values in a certain neighborhood, or to learn about rents in a certain neighborhood, because I'm simply just getting alerts nonstop, and I can tell what the values are on a certain street or a neighborhood. So with Redfin, not only do you get automatic pop-ups to your phone, you also get several automated emails a day for things that are still listed, still out there. So you can quickly just run it down, sift right through that, and see if there's one out there that might be worth investigating further. With Redfin, you get updates on specific interest neighborhoods, so you can set favorite areas, and then as soon as something gets listed in an area, you can be the first one to call the realtor. Obviously, not as efficient as having pocket listings with a realtor, but just something else to kind of go by. You can also get updates on status changes. If something dropped in price significantly, you can then go back and act on that to talk to the realtor about what the deal is with the property. You can also see if something that you made an offer on was accepted by with somebody else or sold, things like that. So it's a good way to update. Trulia also sends. So for me, it sends every morning 5 for sale and 5 for rent to my email as well, so I can quickly see again anything that's potentially interesting. With the for rents, a lot of times I'm using it to gauge rental values in the area, but once in a while you might see a really crappy rental that looks like it's got a lot of deferred maintenance, and maybe that's a lead as well. So that's just another way to generate leads. And then Zillow also does give you some kind of daily email about anything that you've put in as search criteria recently, and they send you anything that's popped up in that kind of area as well. And that's our contact info right there, but you'll have it with the cards.
Okay, thank you very much, Igor and Bonnie and Bill. Let's give the panel a great round of applause, please. We're not done yet. We've got some time for questions. So are there any questions from the audience? Come on now, you've just spent, okay. Barb, get to the microphone, please. Go ahead. I'm sorry, wrong mic. Try it now.
Hello. What do you do with leads you don't want? Something like $1 million house, or if it's just going out in a yellow letter or whatever, or if it's happens to be a commercial property or in a rotten neighborhood or something like that, but you got somebody to call you. What do you do with those?
For us, I know for us, a lot of times we'll try to see if there's anybody in the network that's interested in it. We'll post it out on Dig. I've done that probably 2 or 3 times now. I also have another network of people that I deal with through another organization. I'll post it there. If that doesn't work, we'll go ahead and then just try to do what we can. We'll get a real estate agent that we work with involved and see if they can help them out. Typically, $1 million house is not something we're going to go for. We're trying to keep it first-time home buyer. Like I said, we're looking more for the people who are exiting and trying to downsize in their lives, and looking for buyers who are first-time home buyers. So it's that $200,000 to $300,000 range. Anything outside of a certain area, we try to wholesale. Anything that's within like a half hour, it would probably be something more along the lines of a flip for us. But we'll try to do our best to help anybody out. We try to figure out who's the best person to talk to and transfer.
Barb, does that answer your question?
To piggyback on that, thou shalt not wait. So when you're marketing something called reciprocity, just feeding the people who feed you. And if it's something that doesn't work out, even if it's not $1 million listing and you're not going to end up buying it, slip that name and number to one of your realtor contacts, because they will remember that. And it's like when somebody does something, you do something for someone, they're going to be looking to return that favor at some point. So the day they do come up with a pocket listing, you're more likely to end up with it. So definitely don't waste the lead. That's for sure. A couple of other things I wanted to mention, maybe that'll spark a few other questions. But when you're doing, you guys do the 7 or 8 step sequence, and maybe it's okay to fire off the same 7 or 8, is the same letter 7 or 8 times. But we found that when you can build off of one letter that follows the next and the next and the next, can really boost the response rate to the point where someone already feels like they know you by the time they call after the 8th letter, where first one might be the yellow letter, we buy houses, and the next letter says, hey, I sent you a letter a few weeks ago, and then the letter after that, it says, should I send out the search party? I can't believe I haven't heard from you yet, and I'm really looking to get rid of this cash. And every letter kind of mentions the letter before, and it's better to have a picture with those types of letters, because then you become more familiar with the person that you're sending out the letter to. But part of this whole thing is kind of building that relationship, and I've noticed that the response rates have gone up through that type of sequence mailings. Another thing that I've done, because you had mentioned it, it reminded me that somebody had your letter probably in like the brochure drawer that every person has in their kitchen. So I've put a PSs a lot in my letters that say, hey, by the way, if you're not ready to sell now, get a magnet and stick this to your refrigerator or put it in your brochure drawer and call us when it's time, because people will actually save it. And the more you can ask them to do certain things, the more they're more likely. Yep. And people will save it, and you can't assume you actually have to tell people in your letter, and especially with your calls to action, like call right now, and those types of things are very important, as dumb as they seem. Another thing I had written down is, I don't know about you guys, especially when you're doing it yourself, when you automate things, you kind of lose the personal touch. But if you are licking your own stamps, so to speak, go to the post office and get the biggest, ugliest, craziest stamps you can find, and not just the regular commemorative ones. They have all kinds of different collector stamps that cost the same price, and they're a lot bigger. And I'll put them on at weird angles or upside down, and just do anything to make it look like it was a personal letter, so that like the type of stamp you use can increase your response rate. And I think you had mentioned something that had triggered my thought, something that we're going to be implementing. Anything you do for like marketing to residential can be done in other sectors of the marketplace. So if you're looking for apartment buildings in certain areas, you can get the same list of owners and call apartment building owners or send them mailers, and something that we're going to be experimenting with as we grow and scale into larger apartment buildings over the next couple of years, and just taking everything that I know about residential and copy and pasting the same marketing into the apartment buildings. You can do it for essentially, once you know marketing, you can take what you know and move it into any business in and outside of real estate. But I figured I would share that as well. And then a question I had for you guys, as in just personal observation, in the beginning, I was always of the mindset that you have to take the calls personally, because it gives you that touch, it gives you a chance to build a rapport. But as we scaled to a level where it just wasn't feasible, we had to go with a service like Pat Live that will take the incoming calls, and they have a script and a message that will dump into our Podio, whatever other database we're using. We no longer do that. Do you take the calls to your personal cell phone or a personal number like Google Voice, or do you send it to a Pat Live first?
Do you want to take this one first?
Yeah, I think so. We just accept it to our Google Voice number, and then essentially just filter through it to see if it's worth following up on. A lot of times, I've noticed also that if you have a lead in Podio and you have Gmail open, and if somebody calls you again from a number that you've already had in your Podio database, their number actually then shows up. So a lot of times with Google Voice, it doesn't actually show you the caller ID, but when you're working in Gmail and somebody calls, you can see the actual caller ID and that phone number pop up, so you can know to pick up the second time. I'm not sure if that answered the question the same way, but
it dumps into a voicemail, but not a live. And does everyone know what a live answering service is? Like Pat Live, 24/7, a live person will actually take the phone call, work your script, and then send you the message. So like what you could do with Podio is they go to Pat Live, and then you send Pat Live a web form, and they will end up filling it out with those questions, and then you'll end up with notifications in your database, and it does whatever you want it to do after that. So for now, I guess you just dump everything into a voicemail and then call back the numbers, which is that works for most people. So I just was curious. I figured I'd share that with you.
How much or how expensive is Pat Live?
I don't remember right now, because this last service we used was actually integrated with Pat Live, so it was all part of like a package that we bought that had like 10 different Podio build-ons, auto texting and auto emails and things like that. So it's by the minute, but you can turn it on, you can turn it off, and it's a very simple thing to set up that maybe you can experiment with in the future. And what do you do?
On? Okay. When we first started off, we actually lucked out and had an assistant that was working part-time for us, taking the calls. And he was following our script and taking the notes and following up on contacts. He left to do something else. So currently my mother is taking the calls as part of the business. And she's not following the script. Yeah. She does the best she can, but she just doesn't have the wherewithal for all of this. So I would like to switch over to something like Pat Live or even offshore. I mean, there's a couple different things out there, Fiverr and stuff like that, where you can hire people to take the calls. Just definitely need to have somebody who can answer the questions and go through your script properly and get the information that you need to get those leads actually to see if they're viable. I mean, a lot of times people are calling in and just kicking tires. But yeah, right now she's taking the calls, getting basic information, getting a feel for what the person's like, passing that information on to us, and then one of us gives them a call back.
Just before you comment, Bill, I was just reminded that it's now 5 minutes after 9. We'd like to sort of wrap up in about 10 minutes. And we have about 4 or 5 questions up on Slido that were asked. And I don't know that we cover all of them. So can we at least ask the question? And if anybody on the panel would like to answer, we could go from there. Is that okay with you, Bill? Sure. Okay. So from Slido, and by the way, anybody else that has any questions, use that code B195. I'll just ask all the questions, and then you guys can answer any of them or none of them if you don't want to. What is the most cost-effective method you've used to find profitable flips? That's first question. The second question is, how can you contact banks after a foreclosure and make an offer on a property before they list it on the market? Good luck to that one. Can you repeat slowly what the name of the deal flow software is? I guess you've done that already. And then Anonymous asks, what are your monthly numbers, pieces of mail, percent responses, number of offers made, number of offers accepted? What's your average spread, wholesale, and flip? I think you've answered those questions already. And then last, what do you do with the leads you don't want? Example, $1 million, bad location, etc. I think you've answered that one as well. So any of those questions you guys want to answer?
On the list in order, but the most effective method you used for finding profitable flips, and I don't know, there could be a couple ways to answer this question. Is it cost effective or just effective in general? But I think a couple ways to answer this. You become what you focus on, and that's in any area of life, whether it's your thoughts or what you do in your business. So for me, I've focused heavily on those inherited properties, and over time I've gotten a great return on it, and they just seem to be the most motivated people. When it comes to being cost effective, there's nothing more cost effective at this point and more effective across the board than cold calling and skip tracing. There's the database for cold calling Mojo Dialer, that system for the triple dialer, I think is only $150 a month compared to, God, you can't even hardly send a couple hundred letters for $150. I mean, you can reach thousands and thousands of people. Door knocking is also another cost-effective way. So I think those 3 things, and just remember, whatever it is that you focus on, you can be super successful at. But like we all said, and Bonnie had it in her presentation, to be super, super, super consistent with whatever it is you do and not getting shiny object syndrome and sticking to that one thing, because it's the boring, repetitive things that you do in your business over and over and over that drive it. Like that's really where success is, and just finding it and sticking to it. And that's what separates Mega Successful from everyone else. That second one, how can you contact banks after foreclosure? Best to contact the people before they end up in foreclosure and save it. Because once it goes back to the bank, banks have thousands of employees and branches all over the place. They're not going to deviate the process for you to buy one property unless it's a small local bank, like some very small corner store bank who has a couple of REOs in the portfolio. You may be able to get in touch with those types of people. With the normal Wells Fargo and the bigger banks, it's best to start early on from when they have, it's called the NOD, the Notice of Default, or even before you get the 30 to 60 to 90-day late list, and contact and stay with those people all throughout the process, and you'll have a much greater chance of getting those types of deals.
Anything else, Bill? Did you want to cover on that?
On that, I think just really what it is follow through. Once you're in contact with that owner, remaining in rapport, because this is what I think can be most effective with share sales, is when you got with that seller during the notice of default stage, it just didn't work out, and then you say, hey, look, I know the sale's tomorrow. Do you plan on leaving? Do you plan on staying? Do you plan on pouring concrete down the drains? Or what are you going to do to the place? And they're going to give you the honest feedback, and will help you to place more competitive bids on properties once it hits the sale. So utilize that information. That's the only way I would ever bid on a sheriff sale property today, is by having inside information from the seller directly.
Okay. Are there any last questions from the audience?
There's a couple up there. You had one.
Oh, the real flow. Okay. Bonnie, did you want to say something? Go ahead.
Okay. It's RealFlow, RealeFLOW. And it actually has in there, when you put the address in, it pulls up the property records if they're available. It can do a comp report. It can do, you can put your repair estimates in there. It actually has a form that has average prices across the country for different items. And so you can go through your whole repair estimate, plug in your information, and it'll calculate out your values for you. It's got lead flow in there so that you can actually look at some of these leads and do some searches. Some are free, some cost money. It can actually do the mailings for you. There's several different things. It's not just a CRM. It's got more into it that is real estate investor friendly. I do want to say, though, that I've been having problems with them lately. We've been noticing that data of ours that's been out there that we knew was there is now no longer there. They're not supposed to be deleting any information from the system, but there's definitely a glitch in the background that's happening, and I've been in contact with them about that. But overall, it's been a wonderful support system for us to keep track of these properties, the contacts, and our tasks. Keeps us on target for what we need to work on.
Okay. I'll add just a couple of things. One of the big advantages to having a CRM is the fact that you can have a team of people all working on the same project or account and document everything that's going on. So I could take the original call, Bonnie could do a follow-up call, someone else on the outside does the visit, the walkthrough on the house, and everybody's just putting their notes in, and any of us can follow what's going on with the property and see at any point in time what the status is for that particular property. The other thing, I think that the biggest difference for me between Podio and RealFlow, I think Podio is actually a better CRM system per se. I think it does a better job of tracking. It has better connections to outside resources like Google Voice and other things like that. I think it has better email tracking and follow-up capabilities. All of those kinds of things I think are a little bit stronger in Podio. But I think where RealFlow shines, if you're willing to take on those pieces missing in the front, RealFlow offers, especially beginners, some tools that Podio does not have. Bonnie mentioned the rehab estimator. It's a great little tool. I mean, you go through, and once you get used to the format, you walk through a house, you check the boxes or list the number of windows or whatever it is, and then push the button, and it basically calculates for you an estimated rehab cost. And in the beginning, it's a great way to get started. I'm not saying that that's the final be-all answer, because it's not always going to be 100% accurate, but it's a great starting place, and it's relatively easy to use. The other part is a deal analyzer, which allows you to go in, you take your rehab estimate, you pump in the numbers for the offer and for the ARV and so on and so forth, and it'll come back with your holding costs and all those things factored in and tell you whether it's going to be a profitable opportunity or not. So all of that stuff's kind of built right into the tool.
Okay, we have time for one more question. Who's got the final question of the evening? Going once, going twice. Okay, guess you're all tired. Maybe you need pizza to go home or go home with or something. Let's give our panel a great round of applause. Thanks, guys.